For all the petals, you're going to use your half sphere mold and a larger metal bowl. The larger bowl I did purchase at Dollar Tree, and you're just going to shape the petal in the bowl, as you can see in the video. So you just want to have a little bit of a bend to the petal, because we will be using the large Cosmo to make a peony flower. And you're just placing the petal in there and using the smaller metal half sphere mold to press it into the metal bowl. And you're doing that for all the petals. There's 36 petals at 4 inches high. I did use a 6-inch octagon base, as you can see displaying here in the video. We're just shaping all the petals. Okay, now that all the petals are shaped, I'm just stacking a few of them so that way I can cut up the center. So for 8 petals, you're going to measure 2 inches with your ruler. Make a pencil mark. And using our scissors, we're going to cut up to that pencil mark. So you can see I'm gathering them in groups of 4. Again, measuring 2 inches. Marking my pencil mark. And cutting up the center. I only like to cut a maximum of about 4 petals at a time. So I'm gathering my next 4 petals, and they're going to be cut 1.5 inches. So measure 1.5 inches. And again, these are all the same height petals. So by cutting them at different heights, they're going to stand up more. So the further up the petal we cut, the flatter the petal will sit. So I'm gathering my next 4, and those are also at 1.5 inches. The next 4 petals, or a total of 8 of them, will be cut at 1.25 inches. Stack them the best that you can, because I know that we rolled them in the metal bowl. So again, 1.25 inches, measure up, make your pencil mark, and then cut up to that mark. We're putting the line on the back of the petal, therefore you will not see it. The next 8 petals are cut at 1 inch. So I'm going to gather 4 again and cut them at 1 inch. Because we're only cutting them at 1 inch, they're going to stand almost straight up. Again, this set of 4 is cut at 1 inch. All the sizes and styling information is notated on your instruction document with the purchase of the large Cosmos template. Okay, now we're just going to glue all the petals together. So do a small line of glue, lift it up and over. Again, separate them with your fingers, add that line of glue on the left side, flip up and over. Add that small line of glue, lift the right side up and over and attach it to the left. And I'm going to continue to do this for all of the petals. Okay, now that all of our petals have been assembled, we're going to make our pencil marks on the octagon base. So the first layer will be at 1 1/4 inches. Measure a 1/2 inch in. Make another pencil mark and another 1/2 inch in. And you're going to make those pencil marks all around the shape of the base on each side. So 1 1/4 inches, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. As you can see, I'm just going around each side of the octagon and making those pencil marks. This allows me to easily assemble my flower with the petals go right up to the pencil marks. Add some glue to your first petal. Go to one side of the octagon, center it, bring it up to your first pencil mark, press. Rotate the base to the left or counterclockwise. And now to the next side of the octagon. Add your glue to your petal, center it and bring it into the pencil mark and press. Rotate it to the left or counterclockwise. And you're going to go all the way around the octagon, adding your glue, centering it in the side of that shape, up to your pencil mark and press. Rotate to the left or counterclockwise. I do include written instructions with your purchase of the large Cosmos template. So all this information is written in a PDF file for you. So we're just going around adding our glue, bringing it in 1.25 inches, excuse me, and pressing down. Rotate to the left or counterclockwise. So we're using the large Cosmos template to create a peony inspired flower. Okay, layer 1 is done. Now you're going to rotate it. And layer 2, you're going to add in between the petals of layer 1. And I just zoomed in a little bit so you can see a little bit better. So again, layer 2 is 1/2 inch in on the base, so you're just bringing it up to the next pencil mark in between the petals of layer 1. So we're just adding our glue, making sure it's right in between up to our pencil mark. We turn to the left or counterclockwise. Add your glue, center it in there, and bring it right up to your pencil mark. And you're doing that all the way around for layer 2. I did flip forward petal number 1 just to tuck that last petal underneath. So now you grab your next 8. I am adding another pencil mark to go in another 1/2 inch for our last layer, because I realized I didn't add enough. We're lining it up with layer 1, so the odd number layers 1 and 3 are lined up. So you're going to go in between the petals of layer 2. So layer 3 is 1/2 inch in. So again, in between the petals of layer 2, lined up with layer 1, up to your pencil mark. So again, the odd number layers are lined up, and bring it into your pencil mark. Layer 4 is in 1/2 inch as well, in between the petals of layer 3. And after you adhere the petal, you rotate it to the left or counterclockwise. Sometimes it gets a little confusing as you notice me checking, make sure my petals are lined up. So layers 2 and 4 should be lined up. So your center is getting closed in, so I'm just double checking my petals are lined up. You can see they're super overlapped in the center, but as a peony, you want that to be overlapped. And I'm tucking the last petal underneath my very first petal. So I only put glue on half of the first petal of layer 4. Now I'm going to add a drop of glue and make sure that petal's adhered. Now I'm just shaping it a little bit. And for the last 4 petals, I cut up the center 1/2 inch, and I am going to go over them with the metal ball stylus tool and the flower shaping mat to give them more of a curve. And then I'm going to place it in the metal ball stylus, the metal half sphere mold to really give it a shape, a smaller shape. So that's for the last 4. So I'm rolling it with the metal ball stylus tool, using my metal half sphere mold. I do offer them in my Etsy shop in a set of 3. The larger metal bowl I used was purchased at Dollar Tree. So you can see it's giving it a nice shape because these are just 4 petals for the very center, and we want them to be curled in and have a nice shape to cup around the center. And now you're just going to place them randomly in the center. I am lining them up because I still need to cut up the center, which I need to do, and I cut it up 1/2 inch. Again, this is all included in your instruction document, so if you are a little bit confused, no worries, just check the instruction document. I realized when I was making the flower, I never spoke. I was just quiet. So I'm adding the audio afterwards. Post-production. So again, because these are only cut at 1/2 inch, you can see they really stand up. There's only a slight There's more of a curve, but they're literally should be standing straight up just about. I'm adding the glue to the back of them. And again, I'm just placing them in between the previous layers petals, but there are only 4, so basically you should be able to just place them randomly in there. And they will overlap. But you want it to be curled in towards the center. As you can see, they stand almost directly straight up. And then I use my metal ball stylus tool just to press down the petal. So it gives it a nice closed center. Getting that last petal in there and making sure it's glued down. Pressing with my metal ball stylus tool. There you go, so you can see how the center is. She's beautiful. So this is Neenah Bright White paper. I purchased it on Amazon in a pack of 250. So for the centers, this is a free center I do offer in my PhotoFab Paper Flower Makers group on Facebook. It's available in the Files tab. You can just download the free PNG file. So this one I would not recommend hand cutting. You can do a fringe center if you are a hand cutter, and then you can still style it like I am. So we're going to take Wild Honey Distress Oxide, and I add it to, be very careful, add it to both sides of your center, of all centers. So I did cut 4 of them at 10 1/4 inches wide by 2 inches high. So you'll just resize it in your machine's cutting, in your machine's design space, excuse me. Flip it over, add some wild honey. Now the color I like to use for my center is from the Citrus Paper Pack by Recollections from Michael's Stores. It's one of the lighter yellows. It's not a yellow I normally use for other projects, so I found it was great for my centers, for my peonies. And then adding the little bit of wild honey, distress oxide to most about 3/4 of the whole center. Gives it a nice shading color that I like. The Distress Oxide is available on Amazon as of July 1st, 2022. I did find it in several different stores, or it can be purchased at your local craft stores. So again, we're just adding the wild honey to both sides. So prepping the center does take a little bit of time. And sometimes they don't like to cooperate because they are 2 inches tall. So just use a piece of scrap paper. I like to use copy paper, like text weight paper. Sometimes I will use a colored one, whatever I have. Flip it over and add the wild honey again on both sides. I do like to wear the gloves so it doesn't get all over my hand, especially because I was making a white flower. And then I've been using the same applicator with the wild honey for months upon months, so it's full of color, which I like. And you just hold the base and then pull it out and add a little bit of color. So it'll give it a nice shading to the, so it's not a flat yellow color. Again, for the 4 centers, I'm adding Wild Honey Distress Oxide, totally optional, but to both sides. Now I'm going to use my brown Sharpie or any brown marker you have in your stash. Just randomly add some lines to the very tips on both sides. And I'm going to continue to do this for all 4 centers. Once I've added my brown marker, I like to go back over it with the Wild Honey to tone down the brown marker. And I do that on both sides. I just go back through and add the Wild Honey. So I'm adding the marker again, and then I will do the Wild Honey. And again, I'm going to continue to do this for all my petals. Now I'm going to use a bone folder to curl my centers slightly. So you're just going to pull out from the bottom. Try not to rip off a center. If you do, no worries. So I'm doing that for all 4 centers again, just pulling out slightly just to curl them, almost like you're curling ribbon with your scissors. Very similar technique. It just gives it a slight curl. Separate the centers. Now you can glue them end to end. I like to overlap about three of the centers, roughly 2 or 3. This just makes it easier for rolling the center. And I saw that I missed one for a brown center, so I'm just adding a little bit of color there. Again, gluing them end to end so you'll have a nice long center to roll. The curl of the center is towards you. Now the hardest part, as I always say, is threading the center onto your slotted quilling tool. Roll slightly, add some glue. Continue rolling. And now you can see, because they're all connected, it's much easier to roll that center. Add a nice long strip of hot glue, especially where the ends meet, and continue rolling. The key is to keep the center lined up at the bottom. So you can see I'm trying to keep them all lined up and periodically adding my glue. especially again where you glued them end to end. So just keep rolling. I have to switch hands to add my glue. If you're more comfortable with craft glue at this point, you're feel free to do it. It is a thin base. Now you can use any center that you have in your that you like to use, so feel free to make this your own. This is just a sample flower of me showing what you can do with the template. So I'm just rolling up the center, trying to keep that center lined up at the base. Adding your glue periodically and just keep rolling. And the center has a nice height. So this can be sized for smaller paper flowers. So there are peonies that I have made which is with a much smaller, using the same center but smaller in height. Adhere the end, pull it off your slotted quilling tool, and now we're going to shape it a little bit. I like to press it down so it gives it almost like a light bulb shape. Add a generous amount of hot glue to the bottom. I'm adding more glue into my glue gun at the moment. There you go. Add a generous amount of glue and then press it right in the center there. Make sure it adheres. And then you can fluff out your center as needed. Beautiful flower for a flower set.